Hi, I'm Tim Scales, the Director of the Entrepreneurship Center and the Sam Walton Fellow for Indiana University East. Today we're working on another episode of In Your Business, a program that's put together by SIFE, Students in Free Enterprise. What we like to do is we like to talk to an entrepreneur and we like to discover what they go through. Basically what we find out is there's a lot of risk involved with entrepreneurship as well as a lot of reward. We find that during the adventure we have to look at things like the idea, the plan, and the execution. We always start off with public opinion, then we discover the entrepreneur, learn from them, and then we go out in the field and actually see what they're doing. So please join SIFE as we discover entrepreneurship. Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. Today's episode is going to feature two entrepreneurs together, a father and son duo, and we're going to learn about VanVleet Insurance here in Richmond, Indiana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tim. Good to be here.
Well, this is Eric, the father, Brad, the son. And why don't we start with you telling us, Eric, about the insurance company, how it started, when it started, and what you're doing.
Well, as a young man, I'd always had the desire to have my own business. And in fact, the building we're in I bought when I was 22 years old with the vision of having an insurance agency in it. I worked for a local agency for 7 to 8 years with a game plan at age 30 to start my own business. And in fact, that's exactly what I did. I left that employment, went over and started VanVleet Insurance Agency in the building at 1110 South A Street when I was about 30 years old. And started with Joan Bartle, who was had an entrepreneurial vision just as I did, and we partnered until 2006, at which point she retired. But through that period of time, we've developed an agency that employs 8, 9 people, depending on part-time, full-time, and had the pleasure of having my son come in 2002, which has been really a delight and something I really wanted to happen even from the beginning because we'd always been close.
Okay. So you purchased the building at the age of?
20, I think I was 22 years old, bought it on contract with the vision that I would occupy that building for our business.
Okay, so what happened to that building for about 6 to 8 years?
I actually had a couple of tenants in it. I had a State Farm agent in it, one of my competitors, and I also had a chiropractor in that building as well. And I had Kirby vacuum cleaner salespeople, and I remember that specifically because my basement was filled with broken and used vacuums. And they used to sing Kirby vacuum cleaner songs to inspire the troops to sell, and I would get comments from my neighbors about all the singing in the building. But I had a polyglot of tenants, if you will, to occupy that building until it was my turn.
Okay, so you threw me a little direction here because I was thinking of you as the entrepreneur in the insurance business. I think you told me that started when you were 30?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you started as an entrepreneur when you were 22 because you purchased the building and then you turned around and started leasing it or renting it out, and it sounds like you had at least 3 businesses that you were then renting back out to.
Well, and I forgot another story in there, but I started a do-it-yourself car repair shop called Gasoline Alley, which really reflects this long-term desire to have my own business. And I failed utterly and completely at that business, closed it down, auctioned it off, and then that's when I started VanVleet Insurance.
Let's go back to Gasoline Alley. I didn't know that.
I've tried to forget it, Tim, because it was a bad memory.
What was it?
Well, it was a classic case. I read the Christian Science Monitor, and they talked about a new trend where you could create an environment where people could drive their own car in and fix it themselves, and you rent them space to do that. So they could change the tires, the spark plugs, oil. That really resonated with me. I knew nothing about cars, so it was a classic case of getting into something you knew nothing about. But my dad, bless his heart, gave me enough rope to hang myself We developed a pool of money. I found a building. I had 10 bays created with lifts, tire changing equipment, paint booth, could buy spark plugs and a few parts, and started that business when I was, I think I was 24 at that time. Okay. And that lasted about a year, year and a half. And I didn't do any market research. Obviously, I didn't look to see if I had a market that would work. Typically in Richmond, what people do, at least at that socioeconomic range, was drive their car up on a curb and change the oil underneath. Where this had been highly successful were cities like Evanston, which had ordinances that didn't allow people to work in their backyard or on the street on their vehicles.
Sure, sure.
I tended to miss that point, and of course paid the price as an entrepreneur.
Sounds like a good concept even today.
I think you need to know something about vehicles.
Well, I missed that part. So then the insurance thing seemed to make more sense to me, because I then took that experience and decided to learn a skill, a subject that then I could carry forth, and insurance seemed to offer that. Insurance is unique because it just started as a business. It's like a can of soup. You just add water, heat it, and you can go forward. Whereas in a manufacturing business or car repair shop, you actually have to have capital expenditures and equipment. That causes for a lot of money. Okay. And so insurance fit the need to create a business, but not have invested a lot of money.
Okay. So, let's get back then to the insurance agency, because you started that at 30 years old. How'd you start that?
I had spent 8 years at a former agency, so I knew what I was doing, and I actually took a page out of Jimmy Carter's The President's Book, and I created a 3-ring binder, and I had it segmented phase by phase when I phase this business in. And as I recall, I even looked at the macro picture, because we were in a recession then. Mm-hmm. So I tended to look where the overall economy was in the recession, how it was in Richmond. Then I phased in the building, the company contacts, getting company contracts, which is absolutely essential to the business. And I was just so impressed, because that's how Jimmy Carter ran for presidency. He actually had a 3-ring binder and put together his game plan. So I put together a game plan at that point, followed it right down the line, opened up and wrote a policy the first day.
Very good. And from there?
From there, it's a matter of growing the business, then taking it beyond yourself and your own efforts and start to have employees, which is another whole dimension or layer of entrepreneurship. We had success, grew the business, got a couple of great companies, one of which we've really pivoted on, which is Erie Insurance. That has been a great marriage, a partnership, if you will, and allowed us to really blossom in the community and create a business that at some point allowed me to bring my son in.
Mm-hmm. Great. So today you're still in the same building that you purchased several years ago, operating very well, having 9 employees in that building, and a successful business. It's been here for how many years?
We have been there 27 years.
27 years.
I started in the basement, which is a dirt floor basement, on a card table with a light bulb over the table, because the chiropractor was upstairs, and I was actually working on the game plan and putting the business together on that card table. Then, as soon as we occupied the first floor, I moved upstairs. Had an apartment with an Earlham student up there. 10, 12 years later, we went upstairs, kicked the Earlham student out, and used that as a second floor. Then a few years later, we went up to the attic and remodeled that and made it our sales meeting area. Okay. So we now have a tower, the VanVleet Insurance Tower on 1110 South A, with all those different stories and that.
Wow. So, what was your background, though, to start this? Graduated high school, went on to college?
RHS grad, went down to Miami University, wanted to be a lawyer, went into, took political science, which is probably diametrically opposed from any entrepreneurship, and graduated from school during the Vietnam War, and was very difficult to get into law school. The closest I got was being waitlisted to the Salmon P. Chase Night School in Cincinnati. It was a night school located on top of a YMCA.
Okay.
And I was waitlisted. At that time, everybody wanted to stay out of the draft. So there was a tremendous rush to get into these grad schools and stay in school so that you could avoid duty in Asia. So I could not get in. I was somewhat devastated because that was my game plan, and got out of school with absolutely no idea what I was going to do. But I'd always had a burning desire to be the captain of my own dinghy, my own business. That had always, even as a young person, I wanted to control my destiny.
Well, it seems it's worked well for you.
It has, and with Brad sitting next to me, that's really been a lifelong dream to have my son in the business, because we got along so well as father-son, really enjoyed his company, and it's just been a dream come true that he wanted to come in, and now he's done a super job. He is president of the corporation. I work for him now.
Great, great. He's not putting you back in the basement.
He's thought about it.
He tried. He's tough.
The card table's still there. He can still send me down there.
Well, maybe you'll get a fan now instead of just a light bulb.
That's right.
But, all right. Well, let's move over now and meet Brad.
Okay.
And Brad, you share with us your history. Talk to us about, you graduated from Richmond High School as well.
Yep. Also
went on to college.
Yep.
And just you share with us.
Okay. Had a little different path. I mean, I consider, I guess, myself an entrepreneur as well, but didn't have a business to start up, but able to join and help build. But yes, started here in Richmond, went to the same school, walked the same halls as my father, played athletics, had the chance to go to University of Dayton, played football at University of Dayton, had a great experience there. I remember sitting my senior year in my dorm, talking to roommates, thinking, what are we going to do when we graduate? None of us wanted to think about tomorrow, having a good time in college, getting an education. I was a marketing major. I went to some other interviews, but in the back of my mind, I always knew I would at some point come back and work in the agency. What I wanted to figure out is, should I do something else first, or should I come in immediately and work with my father and learn the business? And the third thing is I thought I was going to be a professional football player. So football didn't happen. Went on some other interviews and realized I didn't like any of those opportunities. So I called Dad up and said, "What do you think about me coming back now?" And the other thing I figured is, did it make sense for me to learn the business somewhere else, or should I get right back in, learn from the best that I know of, which is my father, and try to help build the business we already had established here. So that's what I did. Came back right out of college. Actually, it was in 2001 when I graduated from Dayton. Came in and interviewed just like anybody else, and got a position in sales, and then worked my way up within the agency. So I really enjoy it. I like working with my father, and I think I'm a part of helping build the agency to take it to the next step. From what he had started down in, and I knew I could never recreate being in the basement, on the card table. I couldn't do that. All I could do is take where we were at the point in 2001 and build it from there. And that's what I'm hoping I'm able to contribute and do.
Well, it sounds like timing has been interesting for this father and son team, because your father shared with us as we went through the 70s and a recession, a hard-hit recession. Mm-hmm. And we have experienced another hard-hit recession, and this time you're driving. Mm-hmm. So how's it feel?
There's a lot of pressure. I'm 30 years old, and Dad kind of said, "All right, you're president, you run the show." But nothing really changed too much within the office. We still do it together. We talk all the time, so it's still a team effort. In this recession, we just hired a new employee. So we're looking to grow. We just got her license. My wife has joined us, and we called our youth movement. Kyle Zeidel is 30 years old. He's an agent in our office. My wife is 30. She's joined us. She's now licensed. And we just hired another lady by the name of Valerie, and she's young and energetic and just learned the business and got licensed. So we just put her in, and we'll see how this whole mix goes. But we're looking to continue to grow even at a troubling time in the economy.
Sure. Well, the interesting part about that is you bring out that you're 30 years old as you drive through this recession. Your father was 30 years old as he drove through the last recession. Yeah. So there's very, very much similarities there. Eric, how's he doing?
He's doing very well, and obviously a father would say that about a son, but stepping aside outside that relationship, he's really exceeded my expectations relative to the ability to bring in revenue. He's always been very mature for his age, and I look at the education that he had at University of Dayton, both in the classroom and then on the football field, because he's a great team player. He understands the dynamic of a group. He has leadership qualities, and I see a lot of that coming out of the football and sports part of his life growing up. We always had a relationship of coach to son, and I look at that has transferred very well, because I'm still a coach giving him advice, having the years of experience in the business. But he has that youthful energy, technological skills that are so vital to today's business world, especially with the tremendous headwinds we have to deal with. It takes that kind of youthful energy to succeed. So I've been very, very pleased and feel very fortunate to have the ability to perpetuate my business. An awful lot of fellows in my age group have no one to perpetuate to or transfer the business to. And sadly, those businesses will close, merge, or sell. They will not continue on. And that's what happens to most small businesses.
Sure, sure. So you started the business, you've grown the business. You now have the business, and what are you going to do with it?
We're just going to continue to grow and be successful. Our goal is I think continue to be obviously profitable, be a contributor, be a representative in the community, be able to give back, but then build the business, be successful, and who knows what the future will have for us. But right now we're trying to build what we have here in Richmond. We feel comfortable in Richmond. We like our location. We like the building, and there's a lot of opportunity here. So we're dedicated to Richmond and the surrounding area. We're licensed in Indiana as well as Ohio, obviously, so we can sell in both states, and we can write anywhere in those states. So it's just it's open for us in the possibilities.
Okay. Well, it's interesting on the show because I like to spend some time speaking of the business, which we have, as well as get to know the entrepreneurs, which I think we have done that well today. But I also like to know the realities and understand that entrepreneurship is not something to be taken lightly. It's a very serious thing. It becomes your livelihoods. It's how you buy your homes. It's how you raise your families. It's how you support college educations. It's your life. Share with me, if you would, each of you, a hurdle that you have experienced or seen in entrepreneurship.
I think meeting a payroll is a lot of pressure as a small business person. My heartbeat ticks up every single day I walk into that office because of the pressure. And it's hard to explain to other folks when you're an employee. I guess somebody else's heartbeat is ticking up, but when you're the entrepreneur, there's just a lot of pressure to meet the payroll, to grow the revenues, and the constant challenge in Eastern Indiana in this economy is very tough, very difficult. And we're trying to grow the business, but also grow our revenue stream to keep our employees happy and motivated to do the job that we want to do. So it's not for everybody. You have to be, I think, hardwired a particular way to pursue it, and I wouldn't recommend it to just anybody. For some reason, I had that embedded in my brain as a child, and I've always followed through on it, and I'm very pleased. And really, sitting to my right is the dream come true. The ability to work with your son is, to me, is the capstone to the whole experience.
Sure. Brad?
Which is, the pressure on my side comes from being the second generation to keep the torch going, to build on it, to keep it growing. So I enjoy that. I'm a competitor. I got that from athletics, so I want to win, I want to compete. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure there to be the second generation, to build on what we've already started. So I feel it every day as well, in helping to live up to my father's expectations as well as my own, and where I want to see the agency go for the future.
Okay. Recently, I developed a paper that I'm going to be presenting soon, and it studies baby boom generation and echo boom generation, which you represent each of. One of the things in there is we clearly know that television was introduced by the baby boom generation. The internet was clearly introduced and taken over with the echo boom generation. I'm curious to know how much you're utilizing technology today, and which of you are going to claim the introduction of that in your business?
Well, I think that was definitely myself, not necessarily me, but our generation. when I came in, we didn't have a website. And it didn't really have any, I don't know, I guess we were kind of archaic in our system. So when I came in, actually I give credit to my wife. She really had a lot to do with our website, building it, and had some help from some entrepreneurs in the community that are in that business. So we have a great website, I believe now, that's up and running. It's interactive. We have a new management system within the office called IMS, which I don't know if Dad ever would have jumped on board with that and seen the importance of it with having it all streamlined. We now have dual monitors, and we're trying to go paperless. So we've changed quite a bit, in our basement, and where it used to be his card table are now boxes full of paper. So we're trying to eliminate that here as we move forward and try to go paperless. So that'll be a huge step for us, and be able to pull everything up and have it electronic right in front of us at our fingertips.
Okay. I just watched a lot of enthusiasm come out of Brad as he took charge of that one. How do you feel?
Well, I'm referred to as the fossil in the office, and probably rightfully so. But to give you an example, Brad and I had a business meeting in Indianapolis yesterday, and Brad asked me to drive. Well, you would think the young guy would drive and I'd get to relax, but he was on his Blueberry answering emails and working. Blackberry.
He doesn't even know what it's called. He calls it the Blueberry.
My grandson calls it. He was on his Blueberry. That shows how fossilized I am. And so he was working on that all the way over, and I drove. So I thought that's a symbolic example of the difference in the generations.
Sure. Well, but a very responsible side of you, Brad, because so many people are not supposed to text and drive. So thanks for taking that
safety. I was thinking of safety first.
Yeah. Well, at this time, what I do like to always ask any entrepreneur that comes on my show is about the hours and commitment that they put into the business. So I know, Eric, in the beginning you probably really put the hours in. I hope that maybe you're not having to put as many in today, but maybe you are. So let's each of you speak to the hours that an entrepreneur puts into the business.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a lot. I mean, bringing up the point of the BlackBerry, I mean it's all the time. It's everywhere you go. It's people you meet. It's going out to dinner. I mean, our business never stops. You're always running into clients, running into people you know. So you got to have your game face on, and you got to be ready. And then I have a BlackBerry, so hopefully that I can keep in touch with clients, things that are happening, my email addresses. Even on vacation, it's a big point. If I'm going, I got to have contact with our employees in my email, because I get a lot of messages coming through, and I got to be able to communicate. So being gone a week is a big deal. I'm getting ready to take our family to Florida, and then my mind is thinking, how am I going to do this when I'm gone, to be able to communicate with the office, get back with people, forward the emails that need to get to them, and talk to our underwriters and whatnot moving forward. So as far as hours, I can work 8 to 5, but really it's more than that. It's always, if I need to come in on a weekend, we do that. If I need to stay later, you do that. You do what it takes to get the work done. So I don't look at it as an hourly job, because it's your life,
right,
and everything you do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I might speak to the startup, because I would probably parallel a lot of what Brad says about current time frame. But when I started, both Joan Bartle and I worked 6 to 7 days a week, 4 nights every week, literally for years. I would say for 5 years. And he was just a little boy. I used to bring him into the office and put some coloring books on the floor, and he would stay there. But you have to work a tremendous amount of hours to launch. It's like birthing a baby. And that's why I say it's the province of young people to have the energy and the time and the commitment to do that. Not to say that older folks can't, but one of the cliche sayings is ignorance is bliss, and the youth, you have a certain naivete or ignorance, which is very valuable. Because you get older, you begin to know and perceive things, and you won't do them. And it's that ignorance of youth that allows you to spend that kind of time and energy just on blind faith that someday this will work out for you. And I can remember being very discouraged, because I was selling an awful lot of business, but there was never any money. I didn't know where the money was. And in the insurance business, which is small drops in a big bucket, you have to go around the maypole 5 or 6 years before you begin to acquire revenue to live on. And that's exactly what happened. Finally, we started to develop some revenue that we could live on.
Great, great. Final question for each of you, and that is, as I study entrepreneurship, as I practice entrepreneurship, you practice entrepreneurship, there's risk and there's reward. Tell me about what the reward has been for you, Brad.
The reward is being able to live in Richmond, to work alongside my father, to have a great opportunity, to make a decent living, to provide for my family, to maybe have the opportunity to give my son the ability to come back in this office, maybe be a third generation. So it's been fantastic. The business allows us to have some freedom, so I can be involved in the community, which, talk about trying to give back a little bit than just being in our own world and our own little bubble. So it's been great. I really enjoy it. I like being back in town, in this community. It's where I was born and raised, and it means a lot to me to be able to raise my kids here. We have 2 children, a 5 and a 2.5-year-old. So to be able to spend time with them and be able to coach them, so if I need to get away, being our own boss, you have the flexibility. So I can do those things, be involved in their lives, but then also, I'm to work in less than 5 minutes. So in a day I can get up and run in the morning and get to the office and be home after work and coach my son's team, and then be back eating dinner with the family. And I look at some of my friends that live in bigger cities that their whole day is getting to work and getting home, and after that, that's shot. I mean, in Richmond, in this community, you can do a lot in one day.
Sure.
So I really enjoy that, and then having a father and a partner and to work with has been fantastic. So
Sure.
I really enjoy it, love it, and I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Great, thank you. Eric, what was the biggest reward for you?
Obviously, the biggest reward sitting next to me, but the one thing I would say is, an entrepreneur, you have a canvas to work with, and the ability to express yourself in terms of your business model. And to see that business model flourish is very rewarding, to the extent that you can support a family, perhaps bring family members in, and create something. And creating something is very satisfying. So I think most entrepreneurs would say that that's one of the key rewards, is the ability to express yourself through your business.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks to each of you. I've enjoyed the
Thank
show
you.
today, and thank you to the people watching the show. I hope that you've learned a lot from this father and son combo. They're doing a great job, and as you can tell for their passion for the business, it's about helping a community. They've been able to take their families, raise their family, make a name in this community that everybody will know. VanVleet Insurance, it's a good company. I would encourage you to get a hold of them, not just to speak to them about insurance, but speak to them about entrepreneurship and learn about how you can make a difference in a community. They're passionate about it, they enjoy it, and that's why I stay in entrepreneurship, is to work with people just like this. So again, thanks for watching the show.